Now, I am all about versatility when it comes to watch collecting, and a watch type that I have classified as being one of the most useful watches to go for is an everyday style watch. Now, this isn't a technical term. This is something that I just use all the time to classify certain watches, and how I would describe them are watches that can be worn in a carefree way, have the ability to be dressed down as well as dressed up to a certain degree, has 100 meters of water resistance, has some ruggedness to it, while also having refinement in the process. And today I want to look at the price range between $1,000 to $2,000 and go through some of my top picks for watches from the everyday category for that price range. Now, the majority of the watches that are going to be presented here are going to be watches that are going to be from mainstream brands. We do have a small section I wanted to carve out from some micros, just because I do think there are a few that you can consider as well when it comes to this segment of price. Now, before we jump into this video, if you want more everyday watch options, both below and going above this in terms of price, I have a good article down below looking at 20 solid picks for an everyday watch if you want that do-it-all type of focus from a watch in your collection at a variety of different price ranges. Check it out in the description down below. So now to begin here, I am again looking at watches between $1,000 to $2,000 in retail price. First here with Ball with the Fireman Enterprise. Now, this is a watch that actually for quite some time was under $1,000. It now has jumped up a couple $100, which is unfortunate. I think it doesn't present the same amount of value as it did in the past, but still a really solid, robust tool watch that can still walk the line of dressy and casual. Maybe not being able to be dressed up to the full degree in like a suit or something like that, but certainly with a sports coat, I think this could absolutely do the job, and that's kind of where I want to be with an everyday watch. This one comes with a 40mm case available in black and white dials, thickness of 11.3 millimeters, solid lug to lug that will allow it to wear pretty true to that 40mm size at 48.5 millimeters, 100 meters of water resistance, so nice to see. SW200 movement on the inside, and of course with these watches going to be showcasing some tritium. The surface area of those tritium tubes are going to be way more condensed compared to some other Ball offerings that are more on the nose of potentially showing that off as one of their more unique attributes of their designs. But this is a good happy medium. It's also an entry-level option, the most entry-level option for Ball as a watch brand. So if you want to get into this brand, this would probably be the best place to go. And honestly, if you're looking at value for dollar, still, even with the price increase, one of the better options that they offer. So I wanted to include Sinn on this list because I think they do produce some of the best watches between $1,000 and $2,000 on the market. Now, the model that we're going to look at here is the Sinn 556. I've mentioned this watch quite a bit. It no longer, again, very similar to the Ball Fireman Enterprise. It has risen in price over the last few years, which I think has caused some to maybe look in other directions, but still, even for $1,500 for it on the bracelet, I still think it's a solid watch. I love the Sinn 556, despite maybe it not being the definitive watch for $1,000 as it was claimed in years prior. 38.5 millimeter case, 11 millimeter thickness, 45.5 millimeter lug to lug. So this is going to wear like a true 37.5 to 38 millimeter case on wrist, 200 meters of water resistance, so more than robust here. Automatic SW200 on the inside, which is going to be of a higher grade. So these are movements with regulation are going to run, I've always found, in the plus or minus 5 seconds off from perfect time of day type of effect here, because Sinn is typically very good when it comes to regulating their watches. And then Sapphire Crystal with double AR coating, which some people might not like, but I think it is one of the defining characteristics of these watches. It allows the hands and the dial elements to pop out. Almost look at there's no crystal at all. Just some really cool effects that can happen with these watches, and they're so vivid and utilitarian that with those stark markings, whether you're looking at the I, the IB, they all just do the job when it comes to being very legible and, of course, I think being very versatile in the process. So since we had to make the cutoff at $2,000, I was not able to include the Longines Spirit here, but they do have another good option, and that is the Longines Conquest. My favorite variation being the 39 millimeter, probably in black would be my choice. This one feels the most optimized for getting that day-to-day, everyday style of watch that I would like for this type of video. 39 millimeter case, 11.5 millimeter thickness, which is impressive considering that this is 300 meters of water resistance. Inside you have the ETA A31.L11, so the L.888 caliber from Longines. So this is made by ETA for Longines and is only utilized by Longines. 48 millimeter lug to lug, so gonna wear like a 40 millimeter watch, especially when factoring in the large crown at that 3 o'clock position. Sapphire Crystal, this is an adaptation of a dive watch basically without a bezel and moving it to the everyday format. The crown might take some people and just say, oh, I don't know if I can really utilize this every day. But if you just want something no nonsense, solid Swiss made watch just north of $1,200, these are phenomenal choices. One other peculiar attribute of the Conquest, though, I will mention, some of the models will have lume on them and some of them will not. So just double check this before buying. If you like lume on your watches, of course, just consider this. If you don't, then of course, also consider it. Now, next up here, I want to look at a few options from the micro brand realm. And first here, I have the Monta Atlas Gmt. So this is a GMT. I wanted to keep it more traditional three-hand here, but I think this one still does the job. My favorite is the opaline dial version with that blue accent on that GMT hand. These are just beautifully made watches. The bracelet is fantastic. The on-the-fly adjustment is good. Now these watches are just finished very, very well. These will stack up against any mainstream brand in this price segment. The bracelet's also wonderful to wear. The clasp is long, but well constructed. These are milled components, faceting on the side of the edges, and it just pops all across the case. Also, what I like is just the hidden details with that GMT hand to go above the applied indices of the dial. It is bent at the end of that GMT hand, and it just adds some visual interest as you inspect it closer. 38.5 millimeter case, 10.2 millimeter thickness, lug to lug of 47 millimeters. So this is gonna wear closer to, I would say, a 39 to 39.5 millimeter on wrist, 150 meters of water resistance, so more than enough there, and an auto at a 28.93.2 inside. Now next up here, we have one of the best finished watches for the money, regardless of brand, and that is Formax with the Formax Essence. This is the watch that was responsible for the resurgence of Formax and kind of being reintroduced. This brand has been around for over 20 years, but in the last 5 years or so, they've started to reposition the brand with some new life and some new models, and the Essence was truly responsible, I would say, for putting this brand on the map more. If you're not familiar with Formax and the people at hand there, they also have a lot of connections in the Swiss industry. Owners of this company have a lot of experience in the OEM manufacturing of specific watch parts like bracelets, clasps, and that allows them to administer this into a segment that typically are not doing this level of finished components. So with their bracelets, all of them are phenomenal. They have like patented systems with their extension systems and also their case suspension system with how the central dial will move within the case to allow the bend of the wrist a little bit more freely. They also say that it helps with the resistance of shock, which is pretty interesting as well. These are available in 39 millimeters and 43 millimeters, 10 millimeter thickness on the 39 millimeter variant, which is probably my favorite of the two, 45.5 millimeter lug to lug, 100 meters of water resistance, and also COSC certified movement on the inside with the Sapphire Crystal, variety of different dial colors to choose from. These did just see a price increase, as we've been kind of seeing this across the industry, but still, even for around $1,500, these are phenomenal watches. And for our final micro brand here, we have Oak & Oscar with their Olmsted model. This is probably on the edge of maybe being appropriate for dressing up to any degree. It's probably a bit more casual compared to the rest of the offerings here, or at least most of the offerings here. But I think with the white dial version, you have a bit more play. Now this is a watch brand from the Midwest in Chicago. They make some pretty nice watches, and I think this is probably one of my favorite models that they make. A 38 millimeter case, 10.8 millimeter thickness, lug to lug of 44.9 millimeters. You do get 100 meters of water resistance, and you're also getting the SW300 on the inside, essentially the slimmer, more profiled version of the SW200 and a Sapphire Crystal. They also have this sandwich-esque style dial with the stencil type of look to the numerals and markers on the dial itself. You do have some different dial options to choose from. Again, I'd probably go for the white, but this is right in the middle of that $1,000 to $2,000 price range. And if you want something a bit different from the micro space, I think this is one to consider as well. Now next up here, we have a Seiko, well, technically a King Seiko with the SPB 279. So this entire collection of new King Seikos are models that I've been wanting to get my hands on. I've yet to do so, but I think on paper, still really phenomenal looking watches. And what I've seen from videos, I think these are pretty cool to investigate. $1,700 for King Seiko, I don't think I can do that. But if you are a Seiko lover, I can see this being right up your alley. 37 millimeters, 12.1 millimeters in thickness, lug to lug of 43.6 millimeters. You do get 100 meters of water resistance despite the dressier undertones of this watch. Inside you have an automatic Seiko 6R31. Some people were a bit resistant to that. They probably wanted to see some of their higher beat frequency movements inside of this watch for the price. That's probably the number one point of criticism when looking at these watches, and a Sapphire Crystal on the front. Although King Seiko is probably not known by many compared to, say, Grand Seiko and regular Seiko. And these models are paying respect to a 1965 release, which I think they did a very nice job with. Next up here, we have another watch from Germany, and this is with Nomos and the Nomos Club Collection. I would say what gets the most attention is the Club Campus. The Club Campus is a model family that is more of it's the entry-level position watch for Nomos, and does have some playful undertones in the way that they exercise their creativity with color and different palettes that they choose. This watch also is geared more towards a younger audience, the Club Campus being more for that college graduate. That's part of their like messaging and marketing. So with that all in mind, you tend to have some more just playful characteristics that might not be perfect for the everyday, but they also have some more restrained options and conservative options that you can go for as well. 36 millimeters is one of the offerings, but they have different case sizes here. They do have an extended lug to lug, so that could size some potential people out. So just know that these watches are gonna wear at least a millimeter larger than the proposed case size. 100 meters of water resistance. On the inside, you have the Nomos Alpha manual caliber, which beautiful to look at. If you want to get the more attainable option, you're gonna have to get the stainless steel back. But if you want to spend a few $100s more, you can get that open Sapphire exhibition case back that will allow you view of that nice looking movement. So there are probably a few different options that you could pick here when it comes to Oris in the everyday category. You, of course, have the Oris Big Crown pointer date, and that's probably where I would personally go because I just love the look of that. But if you want 100 meters of water resistance, that is not going to be the place that you're going to look. Instead, I think you go for another option here, since the whole video so far has been 100 meters of water resistance, if not more. You go with the Big Crown Pro Pilot. So these are available in a variety of different dial colors, more of the sunburst effect. Typically, we also did see the unveiling recently with the Caliber 400 versions of these that look really, really solid. These come in with also some different case options. 41 is probably gonna wear most true to a 40 millimeter case, a 12.4 millimeter thickness, 48.6 millimeter lug to lug, 100 meters of water resistance. Inside you have the reliable SW200 and a Sapphire Crystal. And although Oris is mostly considered for their dive watches with the Diver 65, the Aquis, of course, which is their contemporary form of their premium dive watch, I still really love what the Big Crown family has to offer, and the Pro Pilot does get overlooked quite a bit. And now we're getting to the edge, our last watch here of $2,000. What can you get? And here you have the Tudor 1926. I've mentioned this watch quite a bit in the past. I like this design for a couple of reasons. One, it's really simple in how it's approaching it. It has traditional elements mixed with some of the Tudor DNA of the modern era, and I just like a good underdog. Nobody talks about this watch usually when they consider Tudor, but this is one of those pieces that I think is maximized for versatility, 100 meters of water resistance, variety of different dial colors to choose from, case sizes as well. Does have a Solita movement on the inside, so that's why you're getting this at a more attainable price. The watch is paying reference to 1926, which was the year that the name Tudor was registered by Hans Wilsdorf and his associates. And it's defined by that combination of its leaf style hands, a guilloche style pattern at the dial center. My personal favorite that I've mentioned many times is that opaline version with the blue accents with those numerals. There will be some that will say that this is more of a generic offering, and I think that's a fair take. But when we're talking about everyday options and then maximizing versatility and also maybe maximizing your dollar with getting a brand like Tudor on your wrist for under $2,000, I think this is where the 1926 is in a position to really maybe be a viable option for many. But all right, guys, that is my list looking at watches between $1,000 and $2,000 for the everyday format. Are there any watches that I missed? I know there are probably others out there that I didn't consider here. I couldn't include everything, and also would recommend checking out that article down below for more options even beyond the ones that we were able to mention here. Also, if you found this video helpful, you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that as well. Definitely check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.